Retrograde Saturn in birth chart. Saturn, whenever it's retrograde in your chart, or in the sky, in the macros as you're observing it, by way of transit or by way of its natural orbit around the sun, the keyword here is struggle, but the keyword here is also progress. Saturn, whenever it's retrograde, will enhance the expression of its qualities. It does have negative effects as well, but whenever a planet is retrograde, it tries to express more what its qualities are. The catch here is that although in retrogression that planet's qualities seek expression, the circumstances that you're going to be facing with respect to the planet are going to be much more intense compared to any other area of your life. For example, let's say your Mercury is retrograde. Now, it doesn't mean that you will be dumb. It doesn't mean that your speech will be impaired or you won't be able to talk properly. No, you look at people who are voracious readers. You can look at people, in fact, many of them who are comedians, journalists, actors. They will have Mercury retrograde in their chart. Coders, designers, all sorts of people. Great, gifted people. But it's just that if you look at the expression of that retrogression in their chart, that's because these people, they've probably had to use their brain quite a bit in their life. They've had to apply their skills to the maximum to be able to succeed in life. Maybe an engineer that you see who has Mercury retrograde has created an amazing software, and he's famous for that. But if you look at his life, you will see that he had to undergo a lot of circumstances where he faced a lack of that particular tool or that particular language, that particular functionality that he developed, or whatever, innovation that he developed, and that led to him working hard to create it. Sorry. Okay. So in the same way, when you have Saturn retrograde, the traits that search for an expression are traits of hard work, traits of being very disciplined. But the circumstances that the individual just encounters in life through which these qualities are shaped, they are adverse. For example, with Saturn retrograde, let's say in third house, you may have a unique skill with respect to, let's say, a particular accounting software. You're great at it. You're able to do it pretty well. Okay? You're able to understand it. That's just your niche. However, this skill is developed in your life, let's say, because you joined your dad's business and through stroke of bad luck, you lost him early in life, and then very early you had to learn how to keep the books, learn how to manage the business. And that is why that experience of being taken and thrown into the deep end of responsibility, it made you into this sort of a person who is great in that particular area of your life. Okay? So this is the energy with Saturn retrograde. It actually is very difficult for you to find the chart of a prominent individual across any field who doesn't have Saturn retrograde in the chart. One notable example that comes to mind is legendary Indian cricketer Rahul Dravid. Rahul Dravid, known as the Wall, Mr. Dependable, he has Saturn retrograde in his chart. I mean, today also he is the coach of the Indian cricket team. Hopefully the World Cup winning team this time. And he also has Saturn retrograde in his chart. I recall watching in one of his interviews how he talks about his hands sweating way too much. And as a result of that, him using undergloves in addition to the normal cricket gloves that were worn. And it's because of that that he used to avoid taking off his gloves, because then he'd have to wear them again and get adjusted again. And so he used to hold on to the bat much longer, and as a result of that, he kind of used to be in the zone more, always connected with the game. Okay? As a result of that, he just developed this knack of occupying the crease, playing a defensive game. What Saturn retrograde really does is it gives you a lot of opportunities to shine. It gives you a lot of exposure as well. and makes you an innovative leader, in fact, sometimes as well. But that innovation is going to be developed through you functioning full steam in adversity in some way or with limited resources. Okay. Another example that comes to mind is how the Indian space program progressed. In the early days, they were transporting rockets on bicycles, and with time, through that sheer hard work, they were able to bring it to a point where it's one of the most successful space programs in the world. This is once again a very good example of what Saturn retrograde energy works like. When planets are retrograde, they become that much more pronounced in the chart, because planets, when they are retrograde, from our perspective, they appear brighter in the sky. So even if a planet is, let's say, debilitated and it's retrograde, it's still better than a planet that's just only debilitated and not retrograde. Okay, so Saturn retrograde will, in the macros, create an energy globally, even in your life and across its impact on the world, where you will see constantly a lot of things shifting and also concretizing. It is like that time period where you've arranged everything, you've put the plaster, the cement, etc., and you've erected the structure, and then you have to wait for it to become strong enough that you can declare it free for the world to use. Okay, so you will often also see a lot of important projects getting completed in Saturn retrograde periods. Now, in your life, if you have Saturn retrograde, these are precisely the areas that you may have a lot of difficulties with: completing things on time, having to do things again and again, encountering weird problems. Issues with money is quite often the thing. Health issues is quite often, also what people have to go through. Struggle in all sense of the word is often conveyed with this placement, but you always have the option on how you direct Saturnian energy. So as I often say that, if you are running a Saturn period, get fitter. That will immediately reduce the negative impact of Saturn period on you. Why? Because Saturn's job is to give you kashta. If you volunteer for that kashta, you are, effectively reducing it. Okay, so that's why you will see a lot of people who are really great at what they do. They have Saturn retrograde, because they're able to take all of that energy of frustration, lack, fear, difficulty, repetition, and focus it in a particular area and become great at it. Okay. Usually wherever Saturn retrograde is placed in your chart, that's where he is going to, over time, give you the most expertise. You'll be the most organized in that particular area of your entire life. You'll know how to work it, function it. Okay? But obviously, early on, it's a difficult placement. The nakshatra is going to obviously tell us a lot. The house placement is also going to tell us a lot about this energy. For example, if you have Saturn retrograde in the 6th, definitely shows you have brought difficult past life debts and karma to be performed to heal people. Okay, or to create a particular kind of work in some way, because 6th house is also workplace. It can show you creating a particular kind of routine or way of doing things, whatever, system. In the same way, Saturn retrograde in the 3rd can show that you have karma attached with having to show courage, having to work hard consistently. Saturn retrograde in the 12th can show that you have to overcome these unconscious fears that you have, the negative mindsets, the dysfunctional relationship with risk, addictions also maybe. These things are expressed in this placement. So mainly wherever Saturn retrograde is in your chart, there is great room for greatness. It's just that the early part of your life is one where you're just going to have to suck a lot of blows. you know, you'll just be able, you just have to pull your gut and duck and just take the punches from life, because that is what is going to make you strong. Okay, in the macros, whenever you see Saturn going retrograde, you will see that it will often accompany market corrections, a lot of trade deals being renegotiated, a lot of political agreements, pacts, MOUs, etc. being tested, economic policies, monetary policies being tested, currencies going through, corrections in their values. There's a lot of rearrangement that accompanies Saturn retrograde energy. So I hope you enjoyed this video about Saturn retrograde. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel so that you can stay abreast of all the wonderful content that I post here, and push the bell icon so that you can be notified every single time I post. Thank you. Take care. Hari Om.